I now call to order the meeting of the Portsmouth City Council. I want to welcome all of our Portsmouth family and my members of council. I would ask at this moment, would the council members please stand for a moment of silence and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you once again. And Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes.
Present.
Mr. Battle.
Here.
Mrs. Lucas-Burke. Here. Mr. Moody.
Here.
Dr. Whitaker.
Present.
Mr. Woodard.
Here.
Mayor Glover.
Here. Members of council, we have for our consideration the minutes of a called meeting on August 9, 2022, and a regular meeting on August 9, 2022. Is there any discussion of the minutes? If not, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for approval. Second.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes.
Yes.
Mr. Battle.
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas-Burke.
Yes.
Mr. Moody.
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker.
Yes.
Mr. Woodard.
Yes.
Mayor Glover.
Yes. And Madam Clerk, would you please read our speaker's statement?
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, City Council rules require a limit of up to 5 minutes to speak. As you approach the speaker's podium, you will notice a timer. At the beginning of your 5 minutes, you will see a green light. 4 minutes into your remarks, you will notice a yellow light. At the end of 5 minutes, you will see a red light, hear a beep, and we ask that you conclude your comments at that time. While speakers have an opportunity to address council on matters of public concern, all comments should be made in a manner that respects the seriousness of the forum and should not be made in a belligerent, sarcastic, or demeaning fashion. All remarks shall be directed to the City Council as a body rather than to any particular member of City Council, staff, or the audience, and should be limited to matters that only the Portsmouth City Council can influence. A speaker who fails to observe this basic rule of decorum will be deemed out of order and not allowed to conclude his or her comments.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have now come to the agenda item on our agenda, public hearings. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the agenda item we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. 22-254, public hearing with respect to the proposed adoption by the City Council of a resolution to authorize the city to contract a debt and issue water and sewer revenue bonds of the city or notes in anticipation thereof in a principal amount estimated not to exceed $27,700,000 to finance with respect to the city's water and sewer system certain costs of acquiring, constructing, and equipping capital improvements for which bond proceeds have been appropriated pursuant to the city's capital improvement program as the City Council may deem it from time to time hereafter, and the cost of issuance of the bonds.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We do have one registered speaker for this item. Ms. Donna Sa, ma'am, if you will come up and state your name and address, you will have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy. I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood in Churchland. 22-254 is a resolution for the city to contract a debt for water and sewage revenue bonds for over $27 million to finance the city's water and sewer system. The bond is to pay for acquiring, constructing, and equipping the capital improvements for which the bond proceeds have been appropriated in conformance to or agreement with the city's capital improvement plan or program. In the budget book, for capital improvement appropriation plan summary, it reads for the project categories, sewer appropriation to date over $67 million. For the year 2023, over $26 million. Water appropriated to date over $182 million, and for the year 2023, over $10 million. For the year 2023 for sewer and water, total adds up to over $37 million. For the year 2022, the sewer and water totals add up to over $250 million. In the means of financing column, there's no details on where the money is coming from to pay for these projects. For the year 2023, Arpa funds for over $17 million. General obligation bonds appropriated for the year 2022, over $90 million. For the year 2023, for over $7 million. Bonds authorized unissued for the year 2022 is over $12 million. For the year 2023, over $2 million. Public utilities revenue bonds appropriated to date, over $234 million. Preliminary for the year 2023, over $29 million. The question is, what is this revenue bond for over $27 million going towards, sewer or water? And which one of these above categories? General obligation bond for over $7 million and or bonds authorized and unissued for over $2 million and or public utilities revenue bonds for over $29 million. Tell me which project category this means of financing is going to. It's our money, and I want to know how the elected officials who are voting yes are spending our money. After all, the elected raise our fees to be able to borrow this money.
Thank you, ma'am. Once again, this is a public hearing. If anyone in the audience would like to come forward and speak on this matter of public hearing, you can come forward, state your name and address, and you will have 5 minutes. Seeing no other speakers coming forward, this public hearing is closed, and we now move to our next item. And Madam Clerk, please read the agenda item that we are considering, item and ordinance that we're considering pertaining to this item.
Yes, sir. 22-255A, Z2203, Hodges Manor, ordinance granting the request of Coastal Virginia Management, LLC, to rezone approximately 2.36 acre portion of the 4.3 acre lot at 5809 Portsmouth Boulevard from urban residential to neighborhood mixed use in order to utilize the property for commercial uses. The future land use map of the Bill 1 Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan designates the property as mixed-use corridor. The property is owned by the Alliance Church. Planning Commission recommends approval. And the actual ordinance reads Zoning Amendment Ordinance Z22-03.
Thank you, ma'am. Is the applicant present? Good evening, sir, and thank you for coming.
Good evening. My name is Sam Baraki.
Yeah, and you have 10 minutes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I won't be that long. My
Thank
name
you, sir.
is Sam Baraki. I'm an engineer with civil engineering construction services. My business address is 5267 Greenwich Road.
Could you please move the microphone or move closer to the microphone, sir? Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. As I said, my business address is 5267 Greenwich Road in Virginia Beach. I'm here on behalf of my client, Coastal Virginia Management, who is seeking approval for this rezoning request. This proposal is to rezone 2.36 acres, a portion of a 4.3 acre parcel, which currently occupied by a church, from urban residential to neighborhood mixed use. The purpose of this rezoning is to bring in the old Alliance Christian School building back to life. That building has been sitting dormant since 2017. This rezoning will leave the church parcel as is, will be allowed the subdivision to the property into 2 parcels. Both properties will have ample parking requirement to meet the city zoning ordinances. The proposed rezoning will allow for various neighborhood businesses to occupy the 3,500 square feet, 35,000 square feet of building in manner compatible with the surrounding area. This rezoning is consistent with the City Build 1 Portsmouth comprehensive plans. The staff has recommended approval of this rezoning. Planning Commission has voted unanimously to approve this application. On behalf of my client, I'm respectfully requesting that you guys vote yes for this rezoning application. I will stand by to answer any question you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions from my colleagues on council? Seeing none, once again, this is a public hearing. And anyone can come and speak on this matter because it is a public hearing. If you do decide to come forward to speak, you will have 5 minutes. We'll need you to state your name and your address.
Good evening. My
Good
name
evening,
is
ma'am.
Kashiba Cannon. I am the CEO and owner of Blessed Christian Homeschool, where we are housed in 5809 Portsmouth Boulevard. We've been there now for 3 years, and during this time for the pandemic, not a better place to be. The school has been a blessing to me. I have a school during the day where I service kids 4 years old all the way through high school. In the evenings, I have a tutoring service where I also tutor children from the age of 4 all the way through high school, and I also work with adults who are in need of their GED program as well. So I am in favor of having this building rezoned for future use for the city of Portsmouth, for our students, for our parents, and for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any other speakers on this public hearing matter at this time? If you wish to come forward, please state your name and address, and you will have 5 minutes.
Good evening, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
My name is Reginald McDonald. I stay at 928 Holiday. I'm just speaking on behalf of Ms. Kashiba Cannon. My son is also a student at her school. He started there 3 years ago. He's one of her first students. So with that being said, my son had ADHD. The public school was doing a lot to help him, but not enough. I didn't want to medicate my son, so I put him in Ms. Kashiba's school, okay? My son could not hardly read in 5th grade. When I put him in Ms. Kashiba's school, he's on the 8th grade reading level right now. So I just want to let y'all know she's doing excellent in that school. She's doing a lot of great things in that school, and I'm more than happy to keep my son in that school. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. This is a public hearing. If anyone would like to come forward and speak on this public hearing, please do so, state your name and address, and you will have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Arthur Knighton. I live at 942 Chumley Road. With the same as the last gentleman, my daughter has been at that school for 3 years now. With each grade, Ms. Kashiba has been getting her through that grade and doing 2 grades at one time. She's been doing this for the past 3 years right now. So my daughter's entering into 3rd grade right now. She's already on the 5th grade reading level. Same thing with math, science, and English. If you guys can vote yes, I'm sure much of the kids and students would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to come and speak on this public hearing, if you would come forward, state your name and address, you will have 5 minutes.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening,
My name
sir.
is Rakim Russell. My address is 5829 Waxham Court in the city of Virginia Beach, Virginia. I, too, am in support of Ms. Kashiba Cannon. I am the owner of King's Kitchen LLC, and we cater lunch for her students, not only during the school year, but all throughout the summer program. We cater the lunch. We do everything culinary for her school, as well as actually teach a class. Rezoning this building would not only, make that better for the students, but even in the afternoon adult classes, we teach a course, culinary course. So it'll be something else, that we can provide for the residents of Portsmouth.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this public hearing can come forward. Seeing no more speakers, this public hearing is closed. Members of council, is there any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for approval.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas-Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. We have now come to item B, and Madam Clerk, would you please read the agenda item and resolution we're considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. Item B, UP 2211, Afton Shopping Center. Resolution granting the request of Powerful Minds LLC for a use permit for an entertainment establishment and a restaurant for suits 3938 through 3940 George Washington Highway in the Afton Shopping Center on approximately 11.28 acres of land located at 3800 George Washington Highway in the General Mixed Use Zoning District. The future land use map of the Bill 1 Portsmouth Comprehensive Plan designates this property as mixed-use corridor. The property is owned by Afton Associates. The Planning Commission recommends approval with conditions, and the actual resolution reads, a resolution granting a use permit UP 2211 to Powerful Minds LLC to operate an entertainment establishment at 3800 George Washington Highway.
Thank you, ma'am. Is the applicant present? Please state your name and address, sir, and you will have 10 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Glover, members of council. My name is Robert Barclay. My business address is 200 High Street, Suite 500, Portsmouth, Virginia 23704. And I'm here as the attorney and on behalf of Powerful Minds LLC, who is the owner and proposed operator of the Bank Bistro at Afton Square. Powerful Minds intends to operate a full-service restaurant on the site and is also seeking a use permit for an entertainment establishment. And the reason for that is they would like to offer entertainment during the evening hours, both live bands, disc jockey, or karaoke, and permit dancing as well. The planning staff recommended approval, as did the Planning Commission. I have spoken with the leader of the Craddock Civic League and discussed the matter in full and provided him a complete package just as you received. And in my discussions with him, he said that he felt that he could support the project and did not ask me to come to their meeting. In any such establishment, obviously the applicant's aware that safety is always a concern, and to that end, we've worked with the planning staff to develop a comprehensive security plan, which includes 16 security cameras on the exterior and interior of the building. They'll digitally record anything going on, particularly on the exterior, for up to an hour after closing. So that will face the parking lot and the rear and side of the building. They will employ up to 18 security personnel, depending on the size of the crowd anticipated for the particular entertainment event. Most of these would be off-duty police officers. We support all of the conditions that the planning staff has requested and the Planning Commission placed on the application. And in addition to that, it will be just a restaurant and entertainment establishment. No sort of activities such as gray machines would be permitted on the site. I'll be glad to answer any questions. I also have the owners of the facility here as well, and they could answer questions also. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions from my colleagues? Mr. Battle, sir, you have the floor.
Why are the cameras gonna be just running to 1 hour afterward? Why not 24 hours?
Well, that was the requirement that the staff suggested was up to 1 hour after, on the assumption is that's when, if there was anything going to go on, but, if it's more than an hour after closing, it's doubtful something would be going on. But, I'm certain my client would be prepared to, run them at a longer time if this council wanted to make that a condition.
Yeah, because after it's over, you may have a few people that can't drive at that time. It might be in the parking lot.
Well, again, if the council would make that a condition, I don't see my client having a problem with
I
that.
think the cameras should be.
Are there any other questions from my colleagues on council? Not seeing any, then, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Once again, this is a public hearing, so anyone that did not sign up previously and who wants to come forward and speak to this matter, you can come forward at this time. State your name, address, and you will have 5 minutes.
Mayor and members of council, my name is Coleman Young. I preside on Effingham Street here in Portsmouth. I come before you strongly in support of the owners here. I know one of the owners. He's been in the restaurant business for a number of years. He originally started Country Favorites at that same location. He had a restaurant in the Longshoreman Hall on Princess Anne Road in Norfolk. He also operated a restaurant in the Craddock Shopping Center, where it used to call the Stadium. He has an existing restaurant on Chesapeake Boulevard. In Chesapeake on George Washington Highway. I strongly suggest and support him in his operation because he has a number of years of experience.
Thank you, sir. This is a public hearing. Anyone else who would want to come forward and speak on this matter, please do so at this time. You will have 5 minutes. Seeing none, this public hearing is now closed. Members of council, do we have any additional discussion on this item? Councilman Woodard, did you have anything, sir? Okay. Seeing none, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. Madam Clerk, we have now come to the item 22-256. That is the next item on the agenda, and would you please read the item?
Yes, sir. Item 22-256 is the receipt of bids pursuant to an invitation for bids for a non-exclusive fiber franchise agreement. In accordance with state law, public notice was placed in the local press by the city clerk's office to accept bids for a non-exclusive wireless facilities franchise agreement. The agreements will have a term of 7 years with 2 renewal terms of 7 years each, and will allow for the placement of fiber facilities within the city's right-of-way.
How many bids have we received, ma'am?
1 bid has been received.
Please read the bid and mark it for identification.
Yes, sir. Bid proposal by Loomis Telephone LLC for a non-exclusive fiber franchise agreement in the city of Portsmouth, Virginia, July 22nd, 2022. Loomis Telephone LLC hereby submits this proposed bid for a non-exclusive fiber franchise agreement with the city of Portsmouth, Virginia, in support of which Loomis states as follows. 1, Loomis is a Virginia limited liability company in good standing which plans to construct, operate, and maintain a fiber to the premises network to provide broadband telecommunication services to residential and small business customers. And two, Loomis desires to place its fiber optic telecommunications equipment and facilities within the public right-of-ways within the city limits of Portsmouth in accordance with the terms and conditions specified in the accompanying non-exclusive fiber franchise agreement, a copy of which was provided on May 12, 2022, and pursuant to the requirements of Chapter 32, Article 2 of the City Code and the provisions of Virginia Code Sections 15.2-2100, 15.2-2101, and 56-462. And three, wherefore Loomis submits this bid for authorization to place its telecommunications facilities within the city limits of Portsmouth and for approval of the accompanying non-exclusive fiber franchise agreement, and is signed by Loomis Telephone LLC.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any additional bids to be offered? If there are no additional bids to be offered, this bidding is closed. Is there any member of public who wishes to be heard on this matter? Please state your name and address, ma'am, and you will have 5 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Kat Mosley. I represent Lumos. I live at 1273 Clifton Green in Charlottesville, Virginia. We have been providing services in Virginia and North Carolina for more than 100 years and are so excited about coming to Portsmouth with your approval of our franchise tonight. We are very excited to be able to serve the underserved, bringing fiber, which was shown during the pandemic to be so important to school kids, to people who work from home, to telehealth, et cetera. So we respectfully appreciate your review tonight, and we're here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Are there any other members from the audience who wish to speak? State your name and address, ma'am, and you will have 5 minutes.
My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood in Churchland. 22-257, agenda item is a resolution to accept the bid submitted by Loomis Telephone LLC for a non-exclusive fiber franchise agreement having a term of 7 years with 2 renewal terms authorizing the placement fiber facilities within the city's public right-of-ways or streets. How did the agenda item 22-256 invitation for bids for a wireless facility franchise be placed on the agenda, and then this agenda item 22-257 announces that Loomis Telephone LLC gets the job? That doesn't add up. Under general government and the budget book, there is the accounting for information technology, telecommunication. Where is the amended information for this transaction?
Thank you, ma'am. Is there any other member of the audience who wishes to come forward and speak on this matter? Seeing none, then this public hearing is closed. Is there any recommendation from city staff regarding this item?
City staff recommends that the bid by Loomis be accepted.
Thank you, ma'am. We now move to item 22-257. And members of council, is there any further discussion on this item? Or do you need to read the item, Madam Clerk? I'm sorry. Would you please read the item? I'm sorry. You do. Would you please read the item?
Yes, sir. 22-257, excuse me. Adoption of an ordinance accepting the bid submitted by Loomis Telephone LLC for a non-exclusive fiber franchise agreement having a term of 7 years with two renewal terms authorizing the placement of fiber facilities within the city public ways.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Now, members of council, is there any additional discussion? I saw, Mr. Battle, you had raised your hand. Sir, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. Madam Attorney, so we saying the contract is for 7 years, and then upon renewal, they have 2 years all automatically granted to them?
They're able to extend it for additional 7 years.
They are, without our consent.
No, we are, once they sign this agreement, we agree to it, that is what the terms will be.
I mean, does that mean that we agree that they automatically can renew for 2 more 7-year terms?
That's correct. We do have the ability to make exception to that if there are any defaults.
Madam City Attorney, is your mic on?
It is. Let me speak.
Okay, please.
We do have some additional protections in the franchise agreement if there are any defaults or malfeasance to be able to set that aside.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I'm not comfortable with automatically, upon renewal, giving them 7 years, and that's without default. And I think 7 years are too much. Maybe we should do maybe 4 years or 2 years and see how it goes. But I'm going to vote no, because I think the automatic renewal doesn't benefit the city at this point, and I think that 7 years for a not national agent like Verizon or Cox, I think that, we just shouldn't get into a long-term situation at this point.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other council members that have something to add to the discussion? Seeing none, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
No.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. We have now come to item on the agenda, unfinished business. Item 22-157. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the resolution we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. A resolution to acquire 320 Quebec Street.
Now, before we proceed, I do know that there was a discussion in our work session regarding this property.
That's correct, Your Honor. I keep calling you. That's correct, Chair.
And
Mr.
I just want to make sure, council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
That's correct. To adopt this ordinance, I do believe that there is an outstanding report back. If that can be done in addition to moving forward, then I think that's appropriate.
I don't have any objection to that. We are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for adoption.
There's a question on the floor.
Oh.
Councilman Woodard, sir, you have the floor.
So we're still doing the, and this is for the city attorney, we're still doing the investigation on how these properties are acquired, even if it is approved
That's
through the
correct.
motion.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
We needed a second on the motion. We had a motion and a second. Dr. Whitaker, you have the floor, sir.
Yes, this is for the city manager. What is the benefit of the city reacquiring the property?
The benefit of the city reacquiring the property is for us to be in line with the Stormwater Act. Let me find the exact wording, sir. Yes, sir. So the benefit, if the city takes the deed of the property, then it allows us to further the interests of the stormwater and the flood mitigation programs by preventing development in the flood hazard areas.
You say by preventing?
Yeah.
Couldn't PRHA do that as well?
They could, sir.
Yeah, so the issue is who's gonna tear the house down. And as I said before, I don't think that they should be transferring that property back to the city for us to incur that expense when they have the funds to do that themselves. So I'll be voting no.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk,
A motion, we don't have a second.
do we have a motion on the floor? Is there a second?
It appears to be no second, sir. So we're in need of a motion.
Motion to deny.
Second.
We have a motion to deny on the floor, and it has been seconded.
Yes, sir.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Yes, sir, Mr. Barnes?
So just to clarify, a yes vote is a motion to deny.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Battle? Thank you.
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
No.
Mr. Moody?
I'm going to say yes, and I would like to clarify, I do agree with my colleague that PRHA should incur the demolition expense. If that was changed, I would vote in support. But PRHA is well-funded. They have the money. Our taxpayers shouldn't be footing the bill for that demolition.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Just to clarify as well, I concur with my colleagues about the demolition costs and also the pending investigation on how the property was acquired. So I'm voting yes as well.
Mayor Glover?
No.
The item has been approved as denial. This item's been denied. Okay. Moving
And I
on.
do apologize. We did have a speaker for that item, Ms. Donna Sy. I apologize. I didn't exclude you on purpose, ma'am. I was just caught in the moment. Okay? Yes, ma'am. You can, if you would like to come up and speak, you have your time to speak. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood in Churchland. 22-157, a resolution to acquire 320 Quebec Street. PRHA acquired this street at a tax sale in 2005. The property is listed as exempt residential, assessed at $89,000, and is in the Sugar Hill neighborhood. The property is adjacent to Scotts Creek, which is causing flooding concerns. The acquisition was originally made towards potential development of the area. It was ultimately determined by the city that development was not desirable because the Sugar Hill area is too low-lying and has too many flooding concerns. In addition, PPIC, or Portsmouth Port and Industrial Commission, conveyed all of its property in Sugar Hill to the city. The city has already decided that it will pay the cost to demolish the house on the land and maintain it as an open space. Sugar Hill is in downtown District 1, voting precinct 9. When PRHA purchased the property for, and I forgot to put the amount in, the property became tax exempt, where the Civic Leagues in voting precinct 9 contacted for its input into this transition. PRHA, Portsmouth Redevelopment Housing Authority, is giving the city a deed of gift. The city plans to demolish the property once obtained and pay the demolishing cost. The city will maintain the property as an open space like other numerous properties it owns in that neighborhood. I will continue the conversation about this neighborhood in agenda item 22-272.
Thank you, ma'am. We've now moved to city manager's report. item 22-258. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting funding in the amount of $537,599 from the Portsmouth Museums Foundation and appropriating said amount in the FY 2023 Grants Fund for use by the Museums Department for the expansion and upgrade of the Body Works exhibit at the Children's Museum of Virginia.
Thank you, ma'am. We're in need of a motion and a second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Council members, is there any additional discussion on this matter? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas-Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. We've now come to the next item, item 22-259. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting $24,441 of Home Investment Partnership Program income and appropriating said amount in the FY 2023 Community Planning and Development Program Fund.
Thank you, ma'am. And we do have a registered speaker, Ms. Donna Sy.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood in Churchland. Just to be aware, I might need your paperwork. I forgot to add my third page, so I might have to stop. You'll have to read in your own file. 22-258 is an ordinance accepting over $537,000 from the Portsmouth Museums Foundation to expand and upgrade the Body Works exhibit at the Children's Museum of Virginia. The Portsmouth Museum Foundation is a 501c3 to raise private...
Ma'am, I think you might be reading the wrong one. We were on item 22-259. That's the $24,000 for the home investment partnerships.
Yes.
Yes, it is 259, 22-259.
All right. Okay, I think I'll...
Do you need your packet back, ma'am?
All right. I think I'm gonna let y'all just read my information.
Thank you, Ms. Sy. Council members, we're in need of a motion and a second.
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas-Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance we are considering pertaining to this next item?
Yes, sir. Adoption of an ordinance accepting Summer Food Service Program grant funding in the amount of $377,436.65 from the Virginia Department of Education and appropriating said amount in the FY 2023 Grants Fund for use by the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucas-Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes, we have now come to item 22-261. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance that we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir, an ordinance accepting municipal utility assistance program funds in the amount of $48,714 from the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development and appropriating said sum in the FY 2023 grants fund for application to eligible Public Utilities Department customer account arrearages.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move adoption.
Second.
And we do have a registered speaker, and it is Ms. Donna Sy. Ma'am, when you are ready, please come forward.
I'm Donna Sy, and I still live at Woodbine Farms neighborhood in Churchland. 22-261 is an ordinance accepting municipal utility assistance program funds in the amount of over $48,000 from the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development for application to eligible Public Utilities Department customers' account arrearage. This program was created by the state and uses federal funding to provide assistance to eligible city water and sewer customers who are in arrears on their accounts as a result of COVID-19 impacts. Are these funds being applied to the over $14,900,000 arrearages from people not paying his or her utility bills from the January 25th, 2022 award amount of over $358,000 that was paid towards the utility bills? Where is the counting for that to coincide with the COVID-19 arrearage in the budget book?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Council members, is there any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Barnes?
I mean, we had the motion in second already. We need to call the roll.
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. Item 22-262. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance that we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir, an ordinance accepting assistance to firefighters grant funds in the amount of $286,562.34 from the Federal Emergency Management Agency and appropriating said amount in the FY 2023 grants fund to provide paramedic training to firefighters.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. Item 22-263. Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir, an ordinance authorizing the issuance and sale of revenue bonds by the City of Portsmouth, Virginia, and establishing the term, details, and provisions for the payment thereof, water and sewer revenue bonds, total principal amount not to exceed $27,700,000.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for adoption.
Second.
And we do have a registered speaker, and that is Ms. Donna Sy.
So, my name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood in Churchland. 22-263 is an ordinance authorizing the issuance and sale of revenue bonds by the city and establishing the terms, details, and provisions for the payment of the water and sewer system revenue bonds for over $27 million. What is the difference in the resolution 22-254 compared to this ordinance? The capital improvement program in the budget book for capital improvements, appropriations plan summary, it reads, for the project category, sewer appropriated to date, over $67 million. For the year 2023, over $26 million. Water appropriated to date, over $182 million. Over $10 million for the year 2023 for sewer and water, totals up to add over $37 million. In the means of financing column, there is no details on where the money is coming from to pay for these projects. For the year 2023, Arpa funds for over $17 million. General obligation bonds appropriated for the year 2022, over $90 million. For the year 2023, for over $7 million. Bonds authorized unissued for the year 2022, over $12 million. For the year 2023, over $2 million. Public utilities revenue bonds appropriated to date, over $234 million. Preliminary for the year 2023, over $29 million. The question is, what is this revenue bond for over $27 million going towards, sewer or water? And which one of the above categories? General obligation bond for over $7 million, and or bonds authorized and unissued for over $2 million, and or public utilities revenue bonds for over $29 million? Tell me which project category this means of finances is going to. It's our money, and I want to know how the elected officials who are voting yes are spending our money. After all, the elected raised our fees to be able to borrow this money.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, is there any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
I'm going to vote no because on several occasions, I've asked for a prioritized assessment of what's needed in our infrastructure system, and I've never gotten the feedback back so we can systematically approach the problems. And would it be better for us to add a department to do that, or to continue pulling these bonds and paying this interest and paying the companies that it's the mediator between us and these bonds? So the last one that we pulled was 2 years ago for $30 million, and I voted yes then, but I voted no this time because we need to get to the bottom of how we need to approach this and which way would be the better method. Add a department to handle this, put the picks on the ground daily, or to continue as we are. Thank you.
Mrs. Lucas-Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. We have now come to item 22-264. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance we're considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance creating a budgetary fund called the Portsmouth Broadband Authority Fund and appropriating the sum of $50,000 from the fund balance of the general fund and transferring said funds to the FY 2023 Portsmouth Broadband Authority Fund budget.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for adoption.
Second.
We do have one registered speaker, and that is Ms. Donna Sy. Ma'am, please come forward, state your name and address, and you will have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood in Churchland. 22-264 is an ordinance creating a budgetary fund called the Portsmouth Broadband Authority Fund and appropriating the sum of $50,000 from the general fund. Where is the copy of the page that we put in the budget book? And one of the things I have learned, that because all the time, y'all are voting on money all the time. So you can't put anything in the budget book except the same 4 columns on salaries, benefits, operating expense, or whatever. So I've learned that. Now, how to fix it? Y'all had voted on money all night long, and there needs to be a paper that you put in revenue, where it's coming from, and expenses, so we can put it in our budget book so we know where our money is, because we're borrowing money all the time because we ain't taking care of business.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Barnes.
Yes.
Mr. Battle.
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg.
Yes.
Mr. Moody.
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker.
Yes.
Mr. Woodard.
Yes.
Mayor Glover.
Yes. Item 22-265. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance we're considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance to amend and reordain Article 1 of Chapter 35 of the Code of the City of Portsmouth, Virginia, Taxation in General, by amending Section 35-9.1 for the purpose of complying with state law mandating retroactive of the disabled veteran personal property tax exemption in certain circumstances.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for adoption. Second.
Is there any additional discussion on this item? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes.
Yes.
Mr. Battle.
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg.
Yes.
Mr. Moody.
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker.
Yes.
Mr. Woodard.
Yes.
Mayor Glover.
Yes. We have now come to item 2-266. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. Make sure I'm at the right place. An ordinance to amend and reordain Article 10 of Chapter 35 of the Code of the City of Portsmouth, Virginia, transient rental tax by amending Sections 35-441, 442, and 443 for the purpose of complying with amendments to the state code regarding the collection of transient rental tax by intermediaries.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there any discussion amongst the members on this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. Item 22-267. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting mental health general funds in the amount of $222,589 from the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services and appropriating said amount in the FY 2023 Behavioral Health Care Service Fund for mental health services.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. Item 22-268. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance that we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting residential support funding in the amount of $27,000 from the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services and appropriating said amount in the FY 2023 Behavioral Health Care Service Fund to provide support and services for individuals diagnosed with an intellectual or developmental disability.
Thank you, ma'am. We are in need of a motion and a second.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion amongst the members of council? Seeing none. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. Item 22-269. Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance that we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting mental health block grant workforce initiative funds in the amount of $19,052 from the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services and appropriating said amount in the FY 2023 Behavioral Health Care Service Fund for the provision of mental health services.
Thank you, ma'am. We are in need of a motion and a second.
Move adoption.
Second.
Any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, then, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. Item 22-270. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance that we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting projects for assistance and transition from homelessness funding in the amount of $58,388 from the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services and appropriating said funds in the FY 2023 Behavioral Health Care Services Fund for training, travel, and outreach services.
Thank you, ma'am. We are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for adoption.
Second.
And we do have a registered speaker, Ms. Donna Sy. Ma'am?
My name is Donna Sy, and I live in Woodbine Farms neighborhood in Churchland. 22-270 is an ordinance accepting project for assistance and transition from homelessness, PATH, funding over $58,000 from the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services for training, travel, and outreach services. The PATH program provides community outreach, mental health, substance use, case management, and other supportive services to the homeless citizens. How is the Behavioral Health Department working with Portsmouth Volunteers with the Homeless and also Portsmouth Homeless Action Consortium? I see people on the street all the time with signs up needing money. Behavioral Health Care Services is funded through the Behavioral Health Care Services Fund of over $14 million. Behavioral Health Services had an increase of funding for the year 2022 for the year 2023 of over $1 million. The Behavioral Health Service expenditure categories do not include the specific categories they are asking for funding for. The budget book needs to have the updated information printed out with the request for funding that will go into the budget book. Why doesn't the budget book have all the information that is to be asked for? Why have a budget book if it isn't going to be accurate?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Council members, is there any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the next ordinance pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir.
Item 22-271.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
An ordinance accepting settlement funds in the amount of $78,765.20 from the National Opioid Settlement Fund Trust and appropriating said amount in the FY 2023 Behavioral Health Care Service Fund for use by BHS for approved abatement purposes as defined by the Virginia Opioid Fund and Settlement Allocation, MOU.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we're in need of a motion and a second.
Move adoption.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion on this matter? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. Item 22-272. Madam Clerk, would you please read the resolution we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. A resolution certifying the City of Portsmouth's support of an application for a Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development Port Host Communities Grant in the amount of $415,657 in furtherance of the revitalization of 16 Harper Avenue for port-related uses.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move for adoption.
Second.
We do have a registered speaker, Ms. Donna Sy. Ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood in Churchland. 22-272 is a resolution to support the Port Host Communities Grant for over $415,000 for the revitalization of 16 Harper Avenue for port-related uses. The Economic Development Department conducts outreach to solicit applications from port-related Portsmouth business and the Portsmouth Port and Industrial Commission reviews the applications and determines whether applications should be submitted to the state. Crofton Construction Services, Inc. submitted an application for a port host grant for over $415,000 to replace a waterfront bulkhead. Crofton will be required to match the grant with the company's own fund. Replacing the waterfront bulkhead will continue the revitalization of the maritime industrial area surrounding the Portsmouth Marine Terminal and is anticipated to result in the creating approximately 13 new full-time jobs. This project would maximize the benefits of the city's role as a port host community, improve the aesthetics of the area, increase the local tax base by increasing the value of the property, and provide employment opportunities for Portsmouth citizens in the same neighborhood as 320 Quebec Street. It was purchased by PRHA, a tax-exempt government agency. See the difference between a company, a legal entity which is formed by different individuals to generate profits through their commercial activities, and a government tax-exempt agency. PRHA acquired 320 Quebec Street at a tax sale and has discovered that the acquisition was originally made towards potential development of the area. But now the area is too low-lying and has too many flooding concerns. In addition, Portsmouth Port and Industrial Commission has already conveyed all of its property in the area called Sugar Hill to the city. The city has already decided that it will pay the cost to demolish the house on the land and maintain it as an open space. This is just one example of how the government wastes the taxpayers' taxes and fees by government agencies' lack of foresight to provide employment and a tax base for the city. See how this government agency spent the taxpayers' money without getting any returns on the taxpayers' investment. In fact, where the people living in the downtown District 1 voting Precinct 9 contacted for its input into this transition. Why did PPIC donate the land to the city, since the land is near the Portsmouth Marine Terminal and 6 Harper Avenue? There could be a bulkhead installed in this area, since it is low-lying and has flooding concerns because the property is adjoining Scotts Creek. In the boards and commission manual, the role of the Portsmouth Port and Industrial Commission are directed at the stimulation of waterfront development along with closely related industrial and commercial activities. How come the PPIC commissioners didn't do their job with oversight of this area as waterfront property? How come the Portsmouth Redevelopment Housing Authority overstepped their role to create abuse of power in this area and spending taxpayers' money without his or knowledge or consent? Both the commissions and the authority needs to suffer consequences for not doing their duty to protect the people from abuse of power.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Yes, sir, Mr. Barnes.
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes. We have now come to the item on agenda, new business, item 22-273, and Vice Mayor Barnes and Dr. Whitaker, are there any appointments to bring forward for consideration?
Yes, we have for your recommendation. I'm gonna start with the reappointments. Board of Building Code and Appeals, Keith Carey. Supplemental Retirement Board, Herman Covey, Mark Gardner, David Holly, Lyndon Moore. Now I'm going to the new appointments. For the Planning Commission, Anthony Hines, Portsmouth Parking Authority, Kenneth Urquhart, and PRHA, Cynthia Morgan. Those who we have for recommendation.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, I just want to be clear, we need a motion in the second on that one?
Move for approval.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, is there something you wanted to say?
No, sir.
Would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Battle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard?
Yes.
Mayor Glover?
Yes, we have now come to new business. We had new business items submitted by council, item 22-274. And council members, do you have any items to submit? Vice Mayor Barnes, sir, you have the floor.
I'm gonna be really quick because I know that we have a bunch of speakers and I know they want to speak. First, I went to a ribbon cutting ceremony this week. Sweet Royale Hot Dogs and Poetry is located at 2622 Detroit Avenue. Make sure you go out and support. Also, the Wesley Center is having a benefit concert this Saturday at 6 p.m. at the Atlantic Pavilion. It's to raise money for their Hair Star program, so if you can, make sure that you support that. Also, this weekend, we have a big rivalry football game for high school, Norcom and Manor. So make sure you go out and support that. Churchland has a home game too. And also, I know sometimes we can't do our part with, helping with certain things and support, fighting the crime, but showing support to our children, just going out to a game, even if you don't have a kid, whether it be football, whether it be golf, whatever it is, just go out and support our kids, show them that the city is behind them, because those little things like that will help them to make them not want to do the bad things, because they have somebody coming out and supporting them for the good things that they're doing. So if you can, go check out a game. Go check out an event that they'll do, a play or anything. Just go out and show support for our children. I had more, but that's it because I know we got time. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Lucas-Burke, ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to bring to the attention of the council and the members, the audience, that there was an article in the Daily Press. It was written by our press writer, Natalie Anderson. Stop Inc., the board that I serve on as liaison to the council, recently provided financial assistance to Portsmouth residents that were facing eviction. They did this in partnership with the Department of Social Services. They had 40 applicants to apply. That deadline was last week, and they have made an impact on those persons' lives. STOP Inc. stands for Supporting Transformational Opportunities for People. And we are also looking for a new board member from Portsmouth. If you're a business owner or interested person in the city, they're doing good work there, so we'd love to have you there.
Thank you, ma'am. Vice Mayor Barnes, you have the floor, sir.
Got a text. I forgot to mention where the location of the Manor Norcom game is. It's at Norcom High School.
Thank you, sir.
7 o'clock.
Absolutely. Everybody get that 7 o'clock. Okay, thank you, sir. Couple of things. Councilman Woodard, sir, go ahead. You have the
Thank you,
floor.
sir. I'll be quick. Just wanted to let everyone know about an exciting event I went over this weekend. Vice Mayor Barnes was there. It was Sarah O. She's the manager of West Wind Community Apartment Complex in Churchland. She had an annual fish fry, and she invited a lot of elected officials there, candidates as well. It was a great event. She had a lot of small businesses there, small vendors, and it was a great collaborative effort. Also want to talk about the Ida Barber reunion that I attended in August. It was a great turnout for a lot of people who used to live in that community to come together and to share stories and to, like I say, just congregate and talk about the good times. Also, I just wanted to check in to see that we have it was probably to what Ms. Donna Sy was saying, do we have a panhandlers ordinance? I don't know if we have an ordinance per se. I know I was in Newport News this past weekend, and they actually had a sign, and it wasn't to deter them really. It was really to give them information on how to seek help. So they had like a hotline them up there. So I didn't know if that was something that we can explore too, and it was in the medium exactly where they congregate at or where they stand at. So, but besides, locking them up, it was more so of an informative sign, and I think that's something that we should explore here in Portsmouth.
Thank you, Councilman. I will tell you that the city manager reached out to the city attorney's office, and we're actually working on that issue, and we have a report back due to her, so we'll also report back to council once we have that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Moody, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I also attended the West Winds Fish Fry this past Saturday. And
I'm sorry.
Are you pardon?
I'm sorry if I didn't. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. That's not the gist of what I'm going to share, but thank you anyway. Anyway, Sarah Ogle, who's been a resident manager in the Churchland area for right at 25 years, she received really an award that I think deserves some recognition. She was selected as one of 90 people who submitted qualifications for support to the community. And she was selected as one of the top 3 finalists in the nation, which is incredible. And I'd like to read just a little bit of it here, if I can, my clumsy fingers can bring it up on my phone here. Yep, says, Sarah Ogle, I wanted to reach out to you and let you know that you've been selected as one of the 3 Grace Hill Impact Hero finalists based on the amazing work you're doing to build a safe, positive, and fulfilling community. You work tirelessly to create events to help others, and it shows. This was not an easy decision, as our judging panel had to review 46 individual nominations and over 90 submissions. So again, they go on to congratulate Sarah, and that's quite an honor. And there's an award that goes with that, and Sarah's going to donate half of that award to organizations within the community. So congratulations on Ms. Ogle's achievement.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome, sir. And there are a couple of items I do want to share, and they're primarily good news items. On last Friday morning, we had the privilege, myself, Councilman Moody, Councilman Chris Woodard, also City Manager Chapman, we had the opportunity to join the community at Emmanuel AME Church for unveiling of a marker to recognize the contributions of the Underground Railroad. If you would bear with me for a moment, I would like to read to you one of the excerpts from the information. The church behind you was the center of Portsmouth's Underground Railroad activity late in the 1850s. Built in 1857 and first called African Methodist Society, both the building and several members of the congregation, mostly free blacks, likely sheltered self-liberating enslaved persons and smuggled them aboard ships and fishing boats bound for the north. Originally located in the Glasgow Street Methodist Church Sanctuary and later moving to its current North Street location, the congregants were supportive of Underground Railroad activities. The neighborhoods around the 2 churches were especially active at night, with escaping persons slipping in and out of buildings headed for the docks, while white patrollers roamed the streets and guarded the vessels. Jane Pyatt, born around 1849, enslaved in Portsmouth as a child, recalled in 1937 that some escaping persons hid in the cellar of an old brick building in the same block in which the church was built. Nearby were located the Elizabeth River Ferry, as well as wharves and ships. A writer to the American Beacon, Norfolk newspaper in April 1854 believed that most of those escaping avoided the docks and large ships, which were patrolled, and instead slipped aboard oyster vessels and the like that piled the adjacent rivers and coves day and night, and which together comprised the great underground railroad. Subsequent church members claimed that small groups concealed themselves in a crawl space behind the organ as well as in the cellar, and used the attic as a lookout post. Today, Emmanuel AME Church stands as a memorial to the enslaved who passed this way as they freed themselves, and to those who helped them along the way. On behalf of my colleagues, I wanted to thank all of those who participated. There were many members of the Portsmouth family. I want to thank our city staff, our parks and museums, also Mr. Mark Palmerchuk. I want to thank Dr. Cassandra Newby Alexander, who is the doctor of history and was my history professor at Norfolk State University. It was truly a community effort, and it brought the Portsmouth family together to celebrate our history. Thank you once again. In addition to that, I have a wonderful announcement to make. Our very own LaVonda Graham Williams, attorney, City of Portsmouth, is to be recognized as the Leaders in Law class of 2022. This recognition, Leaders in the Law, is Virginia Lawyers' weekly signature event. They will have an event to recognize her professionalism and her importance and significant achievements in the practice of law. On behalf of the Portsmouth City Council and all of the citizens of Portsmouth, Madam City Attorney, I congratulate you on a job well done. And last, and certainly but not least, I had the privilege and honor on this Sunday, September 11th. You may all recall that fateful day. We had a remembrance ceremony on the plaza right here at City Hall. In attendance was my colleague, Christopher Woodard, Councilwoman Lisa Lucas-Burke, and City Manager Tanya Chapman, and many of our first responders, firefighters, our sheriff, and I want to convey to this crowd, it was a solemn ceremony in which we recognized the events of that fateful day. I need everyone to remember that freedom isn't free, and at the end of the day, almost 3,000 people lost their lives on that fateful day. So we let the world know, and we wanted to show our respect to those who lost their lives. Everyone who participated, I want to thank you for coming out in support of that effort, and I want to remind everyone that we must never forget the events that took place on September 11, 2001. That concludes my announcements, and now if we can move on. Are there any other items? Sorry.
Pending items.
Yes, we're going to move to pending items. Item 22-275. Madam City Manager, do you have any pending items?
I do not, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman, Dr. Whitaker, you have the floor, sir.
Yes, just as a pending item from our work session discussion, with council's approval, the 320 Quebec Street issue that we are getting a report back on, I would like, in looking at the report, particularly on page 14, as you look at the number of properties that were transferred to the city, I would like to find out if those sales were related to delinquent taxes. Because you see it has special commissioner, then it's unknown, special receiver. Are they related to delinquent taxes? Also, in the report, it has PPIC and EDA as the entities that acquired the properties. Were those the only entities involved in the acquisition of the property? Were there other owners that were involved as well as those two entities? And so if you could add that, and I'm raising that because it was mentioned earlier that Quebec Street was acquired by a tax sale in 2005. And that raises an equity issue again, as far as are there commercial properties presently that are delinquent on taxes, and have they had a history of it?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. If there's no objection from council.
Thank you, sir. We have now come to item 22-276, non-agenda speakers. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the speaker statement?
Ladies and gentlemen, City Council rules require a limit of up to 5 minutes to speak. As you approach the speaker's podium, you will notice the timer. At the beginning of your 5 minutes, you will see a green light. 4 minutes into your remarks, you will notice a yellow light. At the end of 5 minutes, you will see a red light, hear a beep, and we ask that you conclude your comments at that time. While speakers have an opportunity to address council on matters of public concern, all comments should be made in a manner that respects the seriousness of the forum and should not be made in a belligerent, sarcastic, or demeaning fashion. All remarks shall be directed to the City Council as a body rather than to any particular member of City Council, staff, or the audience, and should be limited to matters that only the Portsmouth City Council can influence. A speaker who fails to observe this basic rule of decorum will be deemed out of order and not allowed to conclude his or her comments.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Our first speaker this evening is Mr. Leon Hammonds. Mr. Hammonds, sir, would you come forward, please? State certainly your name and address, and certainly you will have 5 minutes.
My name is Leon Hammonds, 809 Bowie Court. I must congratulate the council for opening up the High Street corridor. I guess after Washington Street, probably Effingham Street. Because in the past, everything has always been developed from the waterfront down to a certain point of High Street. It's like the door has been closed on the rest of the High Street, you know, like it's the Dark Ages. So I hope you develop that, you know, time to fashion. Now, I got some numbers for you. $112,590.92, $99,585.98, $103,004, $22,307.68, $77,500.02. Over the past 40 months, if not a few more months, the city of Portsmouth has paid out $414,984.64. Why? For various reasons. Some don't want city managers, some got rid of certain people, whatever. But the bottom line is that we can afford to keep doing this. And right now in the wings, we're looking at within a year, it's been agreed to on a contract for $400,000, and after that, there are $200,000. And that's more than anything on my listing here. So we can't continue to do this. Now, I don't know what the problem is. I guess the city of Portland has more money than what we know of. Like Ms. Donna says about the accounting. You know, we need to put that down on paper. I mean, how we spend the money. It doesn't make any sense, though. The city manager or anybody else that is responsible for the accounting should have everything in detail, and it should be in that book. And we need to have it in the book, not just fill in and leave it like it is from day in and day out, month in, year in and year out. You all need to get on the ball, get it up to date. There's no need of having something that repeats itself, because I've asked beforehand when I was up here, how come you did such certain things? No one, but I found out through the campaign, I found out that the reason why the amount of money that was offered was to block or more like a stalemate, or put it in such a way that no one wants to fire anybody because of the amount of money that they need to use or spend to get rid of anybody. See, you don't do that. You're supposed to be looking out for the city of Portsmouth. If that person knows what they're supposed to be doing, you don't need to do that, not one bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hammonds. Our next speaker is Mr. Gary Bahena. Sir, if you would please come forward, state your name and address, and you will have 5 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, council members, city manager, my fellow citizens. My name is
Let's move the microphone.
My name is
closer.
Gary Bahena.
Thank you, sir.
I live here in Old Town, Portsmouth. Tonight I'm here on behalf of the Friends of the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard Museum. I've appeared before you to talk to you about stuff that we do. We're an independent 501c3 that provides program and financial support for the Lightship Museum and the Shipyard Museum. I want to update you on our second annual Portsmouth Paddle Battle, which took place this past Saturday in the High Street Basin at Ferry Landing. The Paddle Battle is kayak and stand-up paddleboard racing. It's also about free children's activities and about live music and just basically a good family day near the water. This year's Paddle Battle was a tremendous success. Children's activities included the Tidewater maritime reenactors like they did last year. We gave away more free coloring books built around the lightship Portsmouth like we did last year. This year we added face painting, and I want to thank the museum department for getting some of the Children's Museum educators involved and coming over and offering educational programs as well. But it's about a race, and it's about raising money for the museums, and that's where we really excelled this year. We had 60 paid race registrations this year versus 30 and 21 last year. We had 45 actual racers in the water this year compared to 24 last year. We had the Inaugural Challenge Cup. This will be an annual event, Coast Guard racing against the Navy. The 4 area commands right here in Portsmouth. We had 3 racers, 2 Coast Guard against 1 Navy. The Navy was a young woman who paced herself. The 2 Coast Guard he-men paddled really hard, and as the mayor can tell you, it was rough paddling out there. As a result, she whooped them. We had 28 sponsors this year compared to 18 last year. We raised over $18,000 in sponsorship money this year compared to $12,400 last year. I want to thank Rivers Casino for being our lead platinum sponsor. We don't have final figures from the event yet, but we expect to more than double what we netted last year. And again, that's money that'll go for programs involving the Lightship Portsmouth and the Shipyard Museum. Proceeds from last year, this year, and next year go to our oral history project that you've heard me talk about, involving the students at IC Norcom doing oral history studies and films on the lives of the families of the shipyard workers. I want to thank Rosie's Gaming. They gave us a special grant this year of $3,500 to support that program. I want to thank our VIP food sponsors, Guad's, Barron's, and High Street Pizza and Poorhouse. As a thank you to them for providing free food for our VIP tent, for our sponsors. we decided to go and add a prize to the trophy that we give out to winners in the event. And those are $25 gift cards from those 3 restaurants. So we're encouraging the racers, the people who came from out of town especially, to go and try our food on High Street. None of this is possible without a lot of help from the city, and that's part of the real reason that I'm here. I'm here to say some thank yous to some wonderful people here in the city government. I want to thank city electricians Thomas Stallings and Richard Butler for testing the outlets that we use to run all the point-of-sale devices and everything else at this event. Friday afternoon, we realized that none of the outlets were working on the Legend side of the water. We reached out to Mr. Stallings. I'll have Richard Butler there in 15 minutes. Can you be there? I was there, and we got all those things working. I want to thank the great cooperation with the Museums Department, including Dr. Alex Benitez, who's here tonight, and the education team from Children's Museum. I also want to express thanks to the great marketing assistance we got from Peter Klagola, Director of Marketing and Communications, and Keith Toller, Assistant Director of Tourism. They both provided outstanding service to us and helped make this event the way it is. I also want to thank a special thanks to Parks and Recreation, and especially Mark Palamarchik, Stacy Porter, and the truly beyond the call support that we get from Renee Spratley. This is a partnership of us in the city trying to put this event on to do better for our museums. We appreciate that partnership. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Ms. Donna Sy. Ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood in Churchland. On Wednesday, September the 7th, a neighbor came to my house concerned about the purchase of property in our Woodbine Farms neighborhood. I went down to the courthouse to purchase the information I needed to find out about the concerns of my neighbor. The Virginia land record reads the number of parcels is 4. The parcels are tax exempt by the Virginia federal law, and to the person who bought it was Portsmouth Redevelopment Housing Authority for $650,000. They said the actual value is $713,000. The parcel with the house on it is a colonial building on 1.4 acres of land with a tidal marsh on it and a creek behind the house. The assessed value for that house is $456,000. The other 3 parcels are land only with the total assessed value of over $272,000, with a total assessed value of the 4 parcels at $729,000, not $713,000. The PRHA made this property tax exempt and failed to pay the assessed value of the 4 parcels and making a profit of the people for $79,000. Not only did PRHA make a profit off the taxpayers, it made this property tax exempt. The PRHA did not come to the people to ask for guidance. It did what it wanted to do without the people's consent. Not only that, in the manual for boards and commissions, it reads that Planning Commission is an agency authorized by state law and created by City Council under state law. The Commission's primary responsibility is to develop, recommend, and interpret a comprehensive physical development plan for the city, and in this process to engage in a continuous urban planning program open to citizens' participation. The Commission serves as an advisor to City Council on primarily land use matters. PRHA overstepped its boundaries and needs to be held accountable for abuse of power. Our Bill of Rights guarantees that we the people are the government and we are to self-govern. The other thing, Churchland is a historic area. In fact, I have learned about the historic activity in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood that I didn't know about. This land and home is a historic representation of the South, and it does not need to be purchased by a tax-exempt agency of the government. The land and building needs to be a visitor center just like downtown. Do the people have to get together to do an initiative to stop this government abuse of power?
I want to speak to that.
Councilman Moody, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is to staff. Has a plan, development plan been submitted on any of that?
No, sir. There has been no plan submitted.
I haven't seen one. Is that purchase been documented?
That I couldn't say.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam
So
Manager.
staff will get back to council on that?
Yes, staff will get back to council.
Anytime property comes off the tax roll without some plan to get it back on the tax roll is, I'm concerned. So I look forward to getting the information. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Mr. Steve Carroll. Mr. Carroll, sir, you have 5 minutes.
Evening, Mayor, members of council, Steve Carroll. I'm confident that a good number of the people here tonight are going to know about what I'm going to address, and I'm equally confident a good number are not going to know, and that's what troubles me. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, a father and son were mowing grass at a church in Churchland on the most prominent highway in Churchland. They were robbed at gunpoint in broad daylight. The father was run over by the assailant's car. Now, I'm a Civic League president. We don't meet regularly because of what happened with COVID, but I'm still a Civic League president, and I'm on the record with the city as being the Civic League president. Did not hear a single word about this. Nothing. And in my book, when you try to run over somebody with a car, that's attempted murder. I found out days later that it was worse than that. Shots were fired. So in my book, that's 2 counts of attempted murder that we did not know about in our own neighborhood. Doesn't anybody see anything wrong with this picture? I was so troubled by it, about a week later, I saw a grandfather, father and son team mowing grass at another church in Churchland. I stopped and turned around and went back and warned them about what happened because they didn't know about it. And he was concerned. He had a 10-year-old boy out there. I should not be finding out about this through social media, and that's how I found out about it. Social media. When there was a rabid fox running around, we'd get a reverse 911 call. Do we even have reverse 911 anymore? Do we? Does anybody even know? And if we do, what happened to it? And you've had countless people come up here and remind you and talk to you about the deficiencies of our 911 system, and apparently it leaves a lot to be desired. That needs to be fixed, and it needs to be fixed quick. We're in hurricane season. What happens when we have a casualty in this city? How are we going to get the word out? A few days later, this person I do know, at a Portsmouth business downtown, 70-year-old woman was assaulted by a punk who had a bad day. So he picks up a folding chair and beats her with it. Sorry, folks, You don't get a whole lot of patience from me for punks like that. You know how I found out about it? Social media. Now, this weekend, we had some police officers who were picking up garbage in a community. I found out that some of those officers were volunteers, so I'm not going to die on that hill. But I will die on this one. I hope none of our paid officers were out there picking up garbage when general services people should be doing it. Because that's what I did when I was a kid. I cleaned up my own front yard at my dad's demand, and if I didn't get it done, when I got done, I was cleaning up a neighbor's yard. So what are our priorities here, folks? And there's a common pattern here. 3 years ago, there was a murder in my neighborhood over drugs, the innocuous pot. An 18-year-old and another kid shot each other or shot at each other, and the 18-year-old lost. And the point here is 2 points. We can't be spending money on dumb stuff when we're undermanned with police, and we can't have our police out picking up garbage when we've got such a high crime rate. And let's not forget the little drag racing incident going through the tunnel. They shut the tunnel down for hours.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Moody, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is to the manager. My question is to the manager. Is there an issue with reverse 911? Is it operational?
Is Daniel, can you talk about the reverse call system? I'm not sure if it's still reverse 911. I think we have a new system, the emergency notification system.
Good evening, Councilman Moody. Yes, the Emergency Operations Center does have both a reverse 911 that works off of landlines, and then also what is called iPalls, which sends to your cell phones. And those are initiated from the Emergency Operations Center.
Could you please repeat that
Yes.
one more, Mr. Jones, please, sir?
So what I was just mentioning to Councilman Moody, the Emergency Operations Center does have reverse 911, or what has always been called reverse 911, that dials out to landline telephones, your traditional ones, and also what is called iPalls, which sends out an alert to your cell phones. And those are all triggered or sent from our communication center.
Thank you. My next question is, when something like that happens in the community, wouldn't that be worthy of a reverse 911 call to alert people within that particular area?
So usually those are done in emergency situations because you don't want to desensitize individuals, because in this case, we would be using it all the time. So, I mean, I think it would be more appropriate, and the chief of police can talk to it, but for the, whoever the neighborhood officer is, to come and speak to the residents at their community meetings or call the president directly. So,
Has that been done?
I don't know. Chief?
Welcome, Chief.
Good evening, Council. To answer your question directly, sir, it is an ongoing investigation. The individuals that are associated with that, the detectives are in contact with those individuals. We've put out countless information throughout the department to hopefully capture these perpetrators in regards to that situation. So it is still an active investigation. As Ms. Chapman stated, unfortunately, we can't put that information out to the community as often as we would like, because we would be utilizing that system quite a bit. We have quite a bit of crime that happens within the city, and unfortunately, those major incidents like that sometimes would become desensitizing to the community because we would be utilizing it quite frequently. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
And one more, Mayor. You know, when citizens come before here and ask questions, and I know it varies, but when we sit here, it doesn't play well that we're sitting here like bumps on a log. How are we getting back communicating? I know our ombudsman used to, at the following meeting, kind of do a report back that, you know, Mr. John Doe asked, made a comment that the budget book is lousy, not accurate, things like that. When that's met by silence, you know, silence in the political world is consensus. And I'm not consenting to a lot of what I hear, but there again, somewhere along the line, we need to get back to a response as a city, as a council, because that just doesn't look good. And perception is pretty strong. Is my colleagues in agreement? So I'd like for staff to get back with how that feedback is going to work. I know at one time it worked well. I think we need to revisit that so we can, the next meeting, get some feedback to people who, we got two audiences. We got the audience here, and we got probably a much larger audience at home watching this.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor Barnes.
Well, if we're gonna do that, I think we may have to have a discussion on how we direct them to give that feedback, because sometimes when people come, they're making a statement, and we wouldn't know if they want a response back. So I think maybe we got to figure out a way to see which responses, which speakers want responses.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm not talking about statements. I'm talking about more like questions, like it was questioned whether 911, reverse 911 is still used. A lot of statements are made. Feedback on statements, I don't think are expected. But I think when serious questions are asked to council, there needs to be a system. But we can discuss that format later if the mayor's all right with that.
I'm fine with that, and I think that there is value in updating all of us when things are not clear. So we'll work on getting better at that for sure. The next speaker is Mr. Gary Bunting. Sir, please state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
All right. My name's Gary Bunting. I live at 416 K Road in the Park Manor neighborhood. I'm here representing the LEFCO Leadership Development Course Alumni Association. The LEFCO Alumni Association, along with the Portsmouth Council of Civic Organizations, will be hosting a forum for the Portsmouth City Council candidates next Wednesday, September 21st. It'll be at Norcom High School in the auditorium. The forum will begin at 5:30 with a meet and greet. This will be an opportunity for citizens to be able to talk with candidates one-on-one, and then the forum will start at 6:30. The forum will be hosted by Joel Rubin with Rubin Communications, very well respected, I think, in the area. All 11 candidates have responded that they will be participating in the forum. I think this is a great opportunity to meet the candidates and to be able to find out their views on the important issues. Everyone is invited, and we hope to have a really good turnout and hope everyone will come. We hope everybody will take this opportunity to get to know and to meet the candidates in this very important election. And again, it's next Wednesday, September the 21st at Norcom High School. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Mr. Mark Godoldig-Yachowski.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and other neighbors. Before I begin my remarks, my intended remarks, I wanted to thank the city for its support of the two very meaningful ceremonies this week and last that the mayor spoke of earlier, the Underground Railroad Trails marker dedication and the 9/11 ceremony on the plaza. I saw today that council will be having a special work session tomorrow. And one of the items on the agenda for that work session is a discussion of Arpa fund allocation. I want to say that as somebody who was present 2 years ago when a discussion of our really overwhelming infrastructure deficiencies regarding the water and sewer systems was laid out at a council work session and then discussed again at a council meeting and subsequently a financing approach to meeting those infrastructure needs was discussed last summer of 2021. I've been dismayed by the fact that there has been so little concrete progress made towards putting together a plan. Nothing that has actually been going on in public view between those times and now. This year's budget did not really make any special provision for addressing almost a $1.5 billion with a B liability for upgrading and repairing our deficient water and sewer systems. This is something that does not happen overnight, and this is something that does not happen without a concerted effort in terms of raising money for that purpose. So I want to encourage you all, when you discuss ARPA funding, to put the full weight of what is coming to us from the federal government, that $28-odd million, into the water and sewer systems. It is not going to solve the problem. The bond issue that you all authorized, which will net $25 million for the water and sewer systems, will not solve the problem, but those are steps in the right direction. And I have to say that in terms of the impact to the citizens of this city, failure to come up with a reasonable plan is going to cause a lot of pain for those people at the lowest rungs of the economic ladder in this city. So it is important that we make a concerted, consistent effort to do what is necessary, because we are under threat of sanction from the federal and the state governments for failure to carry out those responsibilities. We need to move forward in a meaningful way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Mr. Coleman Young.
Good evening. My name is Coleman Young. I reside on FM Street. Mr. Mayor, I want to compliment you on going to the Lumberg conference and all, and the exposure and access you had by the leaders, and you coming back and setting up the 40 people of different department heads and citizens on working together. It's very thing. Also, I noticed you didn't mention your race in the paddle boat on Saturday. Now, any race, there's always competitions or someone comes in last. And for you, Mayor, I think there couldn't be anybody with more stellar qualities to get that position. So there's always next year. But I come with three things I want to compliment. I want to tell a little story. I worked for the city for about 5 years, going back to January 1976. I moved here from Richmond. I was in an apartment in West Haven. Came in on Saturday, Monday morning, first day of work. Come in at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. I would say, oh, we're going to go to Tire Mall. We got a display. Because what I was involved in there was funding to upgrade the recreational facilities. We built Churchland Park, rehabbed Port Norfolk Recreation Center, neighborhood facility, sports lighting, and different things. So I go there, and you talk about baptism by fire. I get there, I see a model for the Mount Herman Recreation Center. So they're asking me about it. I said, you know more about it than I do. I've just been in town 48 hours. But the reason I bring that up is that project, we had to relocate the junkyard, the Peck Metal and Scrap. We went and had to move it across the railroad tracks on the other side. And I bring that up for one thing. As far as I know, no one has gone in and taken soil samples of that land. And you got a recreation center there, you got a playground equipment, you got a ball field. And we're concerned about kids playing in the ground. How closer can you get to the dirt than a playground and a ball field? So I would suggest that you take soil samples just to see if that is contaminated land there. The second thing is, the series of meetings, of the mothers coming for the lost ones. I was talking to the leader of that group, very remarkable individual, and he has meetings on every month. And I understand some of the council members go there and support. Now, I think, yes, it's important to have a comprehensive approach to gun violence, but I also think that there's a time that members of the leaders of this council, and I know some do, but I just strongly compliment you and encourage you to go, because as you know, no one will listen to you until they know, and do not care what you say until they know that you really care. The third point is, and this is the more serious thing, is I've lived here since 1976. I never thought I had to go before council and state that there's corruption among members of this city council. And I say that because of the Arpa funds. Arpa funds were given. I understand that two members of the group of six decide on what money was given to private groups. This is totally unacceptable. Since when do a politician allocate money and then turn around and distribute the money? Portsmouth was fortunate to get a $19 million grant for improvements on High Street, but Bobby Scott, Mark Warner, and Tim Kaine, they don't come and distribute the money, decide who gets what. That's just done on the administrative side. Money, the council approves money. They give the authority to the city manager and the department heads There's criteria that's determined for it, on how the money needs to be done, and it's put out to bid. You approve loans and grants to come, grants, accepting grants. The staff people went, knew the criteria that's necessary for it, and then applied. I do not understand how 7 members of council can sit here and allow corruption going on among the members. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Woodard, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman, I just want to let you know I think you're very knowledgeable about the process, and I just want to reemphasize that to our city manager and her team that that's still the process. People have interviews with our city manager, let them know about their foundation, and pretty much she talked to her team and they go from there. We don't have anything to do with daily business, sir. Depend on the criteria and whatever expectations that we need within our city.
Mr. Battle, sir, you have the floor.
Mr. Young, when you say things like that, it can be deemed slander, and I want you to know that. But I'm very, very interested when you said 6. It was 6 people directing and whatever you said, mismanagement, mishandling, stealing, whatever the adjective you used. Who was the one that was clean? You knew 6. Can you tell me the one that was clean? Oh, it's 2 now. Oh, okay. Thank you, sir.
Vice Mayor Barnes, you have the floor, sir.
Have we actually came up with a process where we was distributing Arpa money to organizations? I don't remember us actually doing that. We actually passed that yet.
No, sir. We have our special call meeting tomorrow to discuss the priorities for the ARPA meeting. So nothing has been distributed at this point for the new set, the second round of funding that's been distributed.
Have we even agreed on the process to even do that yet?
No, we have not.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. We have now come to the next speaker, Mr. Joseph Tiart. Did I pronounce your last name right?
Yes, sir.
Help me out.
Tiart.
Tiart.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good evening. All right, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilman Moody, Councilwoman Burke, Dr. Whitaker, Councilman Woodard, City Manager, Councilman Battle, City Attorney, Clerk, City Clerk, and also Sister Sherrod. My name is Joseph Tiart, and I currently reside in the Cavalier Manor section of Portsmouth. And the reason I'm here tonight is to speak to the recent news article and regarding the fire department and our fire chief. And I want to assure you and also all the citizens of Portsmouth, the business owners of this great city, that yes, our department, we have some challenges. And we face some unique challenges with regards to staffing, apparatus, facility, and wages. However, let me be crystal clear. Now, I represent the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters. We have 2 labor unions within the Portsmouth Fire Department. So, and just want to make sure that you know that. And number 1, our fire chief, sitting behind me, Chief Nestor Mangabai, also a member of City Council, are all firmly committed to doing everything we can to address and resolve the various issues and concerns that we face. Number 2, when you dial 911, we're coming. And I mean, we're coming in hot, if you know what I mean. You see us out there on the roadway throughout the community. We take pride in what we do in serving this great city. And you're going to receive the highest level of patient care from the men and women who take pride in providing that care, regardless of if they're a paramedic or they're an advanced EMT. We're going to give it out all. Also, to that fact, our OMD supports us fully. All of our medical certifications, we operate under his license. And also, we have maintained a 99% approval rate from the citizens. So when you see these Facebook posts, news articles, stories saying that your life is in danger, the world is coming to an end, please know this is the extent that some of our members, not all of them, and the other union don't represent a majority of the fire department. They got retirees in those numbers. They can just throw you, I can throw you any type of number. You ain't got no way to fact check it. We can tell you anything. That they'll do that to get their way. Not saying that the concerns are not valid, it's the way that you go about it, present it. We should be able to work together if you're serious and genuine about resolving those issues that we face. And so you might be asking yourself, what's really going on here? All of a sudden, we need to fire and terminate our fire chief who's dedicated his life to fire service in Chesapeake and came to Portsmouth to help and to serve us. So you want to ask yourself, what's really going on? And my time is running out, but however, I'll begin. What's really going on is this. I had a conversation with two members of the other union. Councilman Wood, are you aware of that? And what we were informed was, one thing was, hey, anytime you have a good fire chief trying to do good for the citizens and for the department, make things fair and equitable for everyone. And the number one example of diversity, you look in his household. He's Filipino, his wife is Caucasian, and his son-in-laws are all African American. If that ain't diversity, I don't know what is. So he wants to see diversity here. And also he wants to see diversity amongst the rank and file members of the fire department. So what some individuals want to see is chief gone prior to presiding over this next upcoming promotional process. We have potentially to promote 4 battalion chiefs, up to 12 to 15 captains and lieutenants. And they know he's going to pitch that ball straight down the middle. He's going to make things fair and equitable for everyone. There's certain individuals that want him gone out of that process because you know what time it is. It's going to make things level, playing field for all. That's all that I have. If anyone has any questions for me, I'm here, I'm available.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Whitaker, you have the floor.
I don't
sir.
have any questions, but I want to thank you, Mr. Tiart.
Yes, sir.
It takes a lot of courage to do what you just did.
Yes, sir.
What you're speaking of is not unique. That's something that we have seen here in Portsmouth in the police department,
Yes, sir.
fire department. We know that there have always been equity issues, and so I appreciate you coming forward because a lot of times we find that a lot of employees are silent and they sit back and they allow these things to happen and they don't speak to it. And so I appreciate you coming forward. That information, I've heard that before, and I know that Portsmouth has a history of what you're speaking to.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
And whenever you have individuals who try to break from the status quo, you will always have resistance. That's the history of the country. And so I appreciate you coming forward. And I said, again, it took a lot of courage for you to do that, and I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. In response to what you said, our other organization has a track record. You're either with us or you're against us. I know some members of council are familiar with that type of behavior. And also, we got a trail of bodies with some of the previous fire chiefs. If you don't go along with what a certain organization wants you to do with their agenda, they gave one a heart attack about a year or two ago. He came through the ranks. Ones before that ran back up north to other fire departments. And so it's a very vocal organization. It does have value It does have some legitimate points, but it's the way that you go about it. And so the chief has started an initiative with the local labor unions where, hey, once a month, come to the table, you want to talk, you want to have a conversation. And we're actually going to work together to resolve those issues if you're serious and you're being genuine. If you just want some sound bites for the news, that's a different story. He's not going to play those games. And he's been consistent with both locals the entire time that he has been here. And we stand and I respect him. I wouldn't come up here and say it if it was not so.
Well, the record speaks for itself.
Yes, sir.
The data supports what you're saying when you're talking about promotions and who have historically held positions. The data is there, speaks for itself.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Anybody else have any questions? Anything? All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Mr. Cedric Cradle. Mr. Cradle, sir, please come forward, state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Um, 725 Bow Street. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City Manager, and citizens of this great city of Portsmouth. I had 4 items that I was going to speak about, but I have to say this. I come before you for against gun violence. There have been 4 deaths since our last City Council meeting. Bernard Clark, Mays Moon, Anthony Brown, and Jaquan White. And also I'd like to thank Mr. Moody, Mr. Chris Woodard, Nathan Chapman for coming to our meeting, Unseen Tears meeting, to listen to the mothers speak about their experiences and what they are going through. We appreciate you coming. That being said, we got several family members that are celebrating birthdays, that celebrated birthdays from August to September, but their loved one is no longer here. Today, Jeffrey Bazemore, he's celebrating his birthday, but the family, he's not here. He was killed May of last year on camera in front of a light, but that's another question. Omar Booker, Raquan Gray, Terrence Johnson, James Hill, Jaquavio Hill, Mays Moon, Nicholas Suggs, Dante Kobler, Margie Lee, and Jamal Howard. From August to September, their birthdays were recent. Now let's get to the meat of this thing. The crime prevention plan. There's no talk about it anymore. This Rock the Block initiative, if I'm not mistaken, there were several shootings in the Prentice Park area that you have this Rock the Block initiative initiated. As far as I know, we're talking to some of the families, that their police weren't even on scene in some of these areas. A shot spotter. How much are we spending on this? It's not working. Why have we sent somebody up here to talk about, well, how is it making a difference? Nobody said nothing. We're just letting it, just going through the motion and allowing it to seem like it's working, but we know it's not working. City Manager, you said something last meeting. You said it's a matter of opinion when it comes to the 4th Amendment, but I'm going to give you a fact on that. The 4th Amendment protects people from unreasonable searches and seizures by the government. It also, the government employee or agent of the government violates an individual's reasonable expectation of privacy. I said that to say this. There's a case, the United States against Togo, and the case said the court found that the surveillance to be reasonable because the camera captures events observable to any ordinary passersby. If you want to look it up, it's there. Why aren't we utilizing finding efforts to do the research that we are doing? The people are doing this. It perplexes me when I talk about CCTVs, when I hear a council member tell a business that's trying to open up, why are you cutting your camera off in an hour? Why you don't have rolling cameras? It makes no sense to me. Somebody got to help me with this. And Mr. Bada was the one who said, he said that he told the business just recently, today, that he wanted the camera to keep rolling. But it makes no sense when we can go and get our own CCTVs as a city. So the 4th Amendment right does not prevent us from getting CCTVs. So we need to deal with not opinions, but we need to deal with facts. There's a list of names that I always got to remember, and those are the families and the victims of gun violence. And again, we come up here with passion, not anger. Unseen Tears supports the police department. We support safety. And on that note, these are the victims of gun violence that are happening in the black community, which Dr. Whitaker really, he hadn't spoken to none of our parents. But then again, Charles Mosley, Corey Turd, Timothy Beard was killed in Hampton, but he's a resident, his family's from Portsmouth. Emmanuel Turd, Jeffrey Bazemore, Jaquan Johnson, Carlton Dodd, Tyshik Wolf, Anthony Skeeter, Raekwon Morgan, Naja Hicks, Jamal Howard, Darion Granger, Amaje Lee, Damon Mitchell, Lakeisha Smith, DeAndre Morrison, Joshua Sykes, Antoine Wiggins, Talik Farmer, Vernon Noville, Yashim Caraway, James Hill, Dante Copeland, Robert Artis, Malcolm Hoskins, Javon Williams, Kamandre Howard, Daquan Epps, Omar Booker, Robert Langston, Nicholas Suggs, Robert Tucker, Richard Tucker, Timothy Shine, Brian Williams, Mike Quayle, Curtis Walton, Kyrie Thomas, William Selfridge, Colson Baines, Antonio Bunch, Curtis Richardson, Andre Hall, Kiara, Victor Green, David Branch, Lawrence Kofa, Crystal Jacobs, Derek Parker, Demetrius White, Booby Staten, Melanie Everett, Omarion Collins, Andrea Bethea, Kareem Barchet. Can I continue, Mayor?
Please finish.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Andrea Bethea, Kareem Barchet, Rodney Anderson, Gary Fields, Jamont Mitchell, Keith Warren, Raekwon Gray, Deion Lofton, George Devontae Lee, Alicia Deion Mears, Ashley Merricks, Robert Parker, Damian Spence, Terrence A. Johnson, Delvin Crosby, Tyrell Jones, Ariel McLaren, Xavier Hill, Keandre Jenkins, John Plummer Jr., Bernard Clark, the 2-year-old Maze Moon that just was killed, Anthony Brown, Christopher Washington, and our most recent deaths on September the 3rd, Jaquan Wright. We need CCTVs. We need more action from our pro-black council. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Woodard, sir. You point. You want the floor?
Yes, sir. I was actually see what our city manager gave us an update.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
also, just phenomenal work. I appreciate the invitation to Unseen Tears. I was accompanied by Councilman Moody as well. I listened to all the stories of the mothers. I took notes. Like I said, a lot of those experiences. You heard those stories throughout the community, and these are not stories you want to hear. And the pain was real. Like I say, the emotions were real, and it makes me work harder at my job at trying to get CCTVs. Also, communicate to our city manager to see whatever initiatives we can push. And I just want to let you know that we are doing all we can do. Our chief, he is in the communities, and I know he don't want me to say these things, but I see him a lot on foot. He's in our communities, talking to the citizens, deterring crime as much as possible. It's extra squad cars in these communities, and actually things that, and this is just a small step, but if you go out Prentice Park right now, it's all these LED lights. It's white light within these dark communities, and that's to help deter crime as well. So, these are just small initiatives, just like the technology that we talk about on a daily basis. These are small initiatives that we got to do to make sure that we, one, improving the communities, and also just letting people know that this crime and this loitering is unwanted. So, I'm doing the best I can as a council person. I think our council is as well. And we're going to continue to listen to the community, listen to the citizens, and improve every day on our crime initiative, our crime plan. But I think our city manager do have an update with the potential planning of CCTV cameras.
Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you for your comments, sir. First of all, I would like to say that Rock the Block is a holistic approach to crime reduction, as well as to uplifting and revitalizing the city in itself. Like Councilman Woodard said, whether it's from increased lighting to trash pickup that we had last weekend, which was totally voluntary for the individuals that came out, and I do appreciate those that came out to help clean up the Prentice Park area. But tomorrow, we're having a special council session, a call meeting, and we will discuss the camera system at that time.
Can I respond to Mr. Woodard, Mr. Allen?
Please, sir.
And I agree, appreciate you, Chris, again, for coming out, and the parents, again, they really thank you. Wanted to say thank you. We are in communication with Interim Chief Jenkins, so I know his work. I know he's a great man, first and foremost. I know what he's doing in the community. We're out in the walks. We've done the walks with the police department, one of the only organizations that don't get any funding from the city and ain't asking for none. All we're asking for is to be transparent and put things in place, because again, we had 4 deaths since the last city council meeting. Not saying it's a correlation, but if you go back to this year, beginning of this year, look how many people died after each council meeting. You'll find it intriguing when you get the information. I know the information, but sometimes it's good for leadership to do the research also. And I appreciate you again, Mr. Mayor.
You have the floor, sir.
I have more than likely coached more little leagues than probably most people in the city. The list you have, it's long, but being the age I am, my list is much longer than that. Each day, I think of the wonderful resources that we have lost. Each individual responds to situations in their own manner. My manner is I make suggestions to the council, which is the highest order of government, and to these folk. If I don't get positive responses, that doesn't deter me. If I have to be a Lone Ranger, then I become a Lone Ranger. And my record of trying to work with kids, adults, and folks who want to re-enter society is probably longer than anyone's. So we all have a piece to the puzzle. And I'm not going to disrespect your piece, or his piece, or his piece. But make no mistake, this should say they should know and should be told that every breath I take is to preserve and use methods and materials to preserve all life. And first and foremost, we're not an African American council. We are a human being council. We care about human beings. Now, when y'all want to go there with the color thing, help yourselves. But first and most, all of us are human beings, and we love and care for the human race. Thank you.
Can I respond?
Yes, sir. This will be, then we have to move on to the
Yes,
next
sir. Mr. Battle, I didn't say anything to offend you. I just spoke facts. And it's approved. There's no but when it comes to life. So when you said the list and added the but, that's where you kind of messed up at. Because I got 78 names on this list. 78 names. Your list may be long, but Melania Everett cannot attend public school this year because she was murdered at the age of 8 years old.
And the names you call are my relatives.
I didn't interrupt. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And again, you said but to the list, that your list was longer than my list. I wish my list was shorter.
I do.
But it's getting longer, Mayor. And I'm not here to rebut council. I'm just saying there's no but when it comes to life in any aspect. And when people use that adjective or verb or whatever, however you use it, and try to make a point, it's not fair. Because the community just heard this on live TV, that council said what he said. And you can't take it back. This is how we as a citizen of Portsmouth and Portsmouth get denigrated. And people look at us like we the worst thing of the worst. So again, but don't matter in my case. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Mr. Darrell Redmond. State your name and address, sir, and you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, council. My name is Darrell Redmond. I live at 4035 Storeway Lane in the Churchland area of Portsmouth. First of all, I want to let the council know that, as we say, we talk about crime. We talk about crime all the time. As me, I always like to come with something that they always talk about, evidence-based practice. We already know about the violence and the rush. We talk about the police department. We have a respect and understanding with the police department, and they're in the process of trying to hire more credible messengers. But there's another program that everybody on council and everybody in the city can become a part of, an initiative. It's a safe passage program that's utilized over the nation. It don't take no money, it take time. It's about, like the first day of school, a couple of people asked me, was I going to the schools? I came to the schools, but I came to the schools later. Because if our kids aren't safe commuting to get there, being that they found a destination and them not being safe at the school bus, what are we doing? So the Be Safe Initiative is a safe passage program that we launched recently at the beginning of school. We started, the first day we was actually partnering with Southside community, the Dale's Home community, and the London Oaks community, where we become a presence out there in those areas to allow those kids to be safe. Some of the parents be at work, they scared. So to allow that, and we want to get with council, get with the city, and get with different individuals and ask you to volunteer your time. Your time don't cost much. If we saying that we really want to be there, let's be there. Each murder costs the city over $2 million. One murder costs you at least $2 million. But to be in front of that, let's invest. It's about investing your time. How many of us are going to stand in front of a gun and de-escalate a situation? Which we know that this done happened 3 times to me in the last 4 months. Actually a gun. They know it. The community knows it. But in situations like that, no training came with me with that. It comes with passion. It comes with passion. We had an incident in the community last night that happened. You know where the 2 kids at right now? They're at my house. Because they scared. When is enough enough? When is enough enough? We have to be out there on the front line every day. I know that everybody got different roles, as he said. It's different pieces of the puzzle to everything. But everybody can donate some time. Public safety has to become the essential focus point before we move forward. Whatever you build or construct, if public safety isn't in place, and I do this and talk about it with people around the nation, public safety becomes essential. We have to deal with the other things, but we have to deal with public safety. Who would want to come into a community that public safety isn't ensured? I just left Norfolk talking to those people. You got major stakeholding companies that's leaving because of public safety. So that's losing money. That's losing taxpayers' dollars. So we have to invest. Talking to national people over the world. If $2 million is the average cost for a murder, because going through debt, incarceration, debt, tax revenue losses, and all of that, that's $2 million per person that a city loses because of one murder. Do your research. I know we got people here who like to research data. So I'm coming to talk data and talking about how we can change it. So if People getting out here and putting their life on the line, out here in these communities, saving the city money, investing in people that's saving your city.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Mr. Sergio O'Neill.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. My name and the citizens, my fellow neighbors. My name is Sergio O'Neill. I live at 1420 Elm Avenue, right there in Prentice Park. First of all, I titled my comments tonight as accountability. As a matter of accountability, as a citizen of Prentice Park, let me say this. People complain when the police department, the fire department, waste management, public utilities, and other departments aren't present unless a situation, an emergency situation, is going down. But why is it that those same people complain when they're there just to be a part of the community to lift it up? And what I am upset about is that very few citizens actually put in their time to join those people from the city department, various city departments, to come out there and actually participate in the process. See, we can't complain without offering a solution. And for those of you all that don't live in Prentice Park, let me be very perfectly clear to you. Before you open your mouth and say anything about our community, whether it's especially in a negative light, please come and see the people that live there. Because you will be surprised that some of us, a majority of us, are very highly educated, hold very powerful positions in where we work, and we actually do contribute to this community. That's one thing that I want to make perfectly clear tonight. Regardless of the crime that happens in our neighborhood, trust me, you have people that live there that are doing their part to make sure we get that straight before it gets to the police department, before it gets to the fire department, before it gets to behavioral health care. We are starting to take our own community back because we are not going to wait on and complain to the city that they're not doing their part and we not do ours in it as well. So let me straighten all of that out. Second of all, this thing that I'm seeing on social media, like somebody pointed out, regarding our fire department and the situation that's going back and forth, there needs to be a level of accountability in our human resources department. Because if you have one side versus the other in a very critical city department with like our fire department, that is potentially life-threatening if those people that work together on a daily basis can't seem to get some order and some understanding and actually what needs to be happening in our fire department. If you have people that have some negative viewpoints or don't have a consensus on how things should operate, it could become a situation where some of those people decide not to work. Whether they just pull off the very already short-staffed fire apparatus and ambulance apparatus, and then we have lives on the line in our city because they have an internal debate going on how the fire department should operate. There is a thing where there is apparatus that is being borrowed from other cities. Lord and behold, I'm glad they're able to get there on anything, whether they had to ride a bike, a sail, a boat, or do something. Please come save somebody's life before they lay it on the ground and die. So, you know, we get it. Trust me, and I've had conversations with both sides, with people that represent both labor unions, and I'm glad as a citizen that I'm able to get some accountability and clear understanding on what the actual issues are. See, a lot of times people will pump stuff and to get people riled up, but not actually educate on the whole entirety of the situation. I'm a firm believer in that's how people cause divisiveness and confusion within our city. The easiest way to maintain control over people is to keep them poor and uneducated or miseducated. There's 3 sides to that, not 2. Furthermore, let me say this. Somebody spoke about public corruption. There's a case in Atlanta right now where a person was a pastor, a former high-ranking city official that has been convicted of public corruption and now is looking at serving 14 years. I would hate for that to be the case in Portsmouth. But trust and believe it, people are waking up. So if there is that going on, let me be clear when I say this. There is a process for getting that resolved. The citizens just have to start paying more attention to what's actually going on. So if we don't want, and I lived in Atlanta I was born and raised in Portsmouth. I lived in Bankhead in Atlanta back when until I was 7 years old. I've seen the way Atlanta has turned some things around. because they had a same dynamic leadership in that city. And there have been some African Americans that have started holding others of the same hue accountable for their actions, and that's why they were able to lead where they are. So we have to start accountability within our own circles. So just to put it out there again, we can take the foresight and let's get this problem resolved in Portsmouth. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Elizabeth Harris. Ms. Harris? Elizabeth Harris? Yes, ma'am. It's okay. Take your time. Me too. Thank you, ma'am. Please state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Nice to see you all tonight, Honorable Mayor Glover and all the members of the council. I'm Elizabeth Harris. I live at 4824 Colonial Lane in the Cavalier Forest neighborhood. And what I'd like to call your attention to tonight is some of the issues that I've had with the Portsmouth billing, in particular, online billing in the real estate taxes and utilities department. And I'm not sure that it's all their fault. I think a lot of it has to do with the type of technology we're using that it really isn't up to snuff. So I was told to bring documentation from what I saw on the website. So I've got a packet for everybody when I'm finished. I'm sure you'll all want to read every word. But anyway, let me assure you that I have written, I have called, and I've spent several hours at the 801 Crawford Street and the Churchland branch of the city treasurer's office trying to get answers to my concerns. So the first concern that I have is that I have not yet received my 2022-23 real estate assessment and have several friends who have not either, either for my personal residence or also for my deceased father-in-law's residence, for whom I am the estate administrator. And that's a concern for me because we now are almost at the end of the first quarter, and I'm sure there are citizens that would have liked to have known how much to pay per month rather than getting one giant great big bill at the end of each of the quarters. I have had funds continuously taken out of my bank account, but they do not match the current assessment, and so that is the first concern that I wanted to bring on. The second is we are now well into the 21st century, and the Portsmouth Treasurer's Office states that it does provide online billing, and so all citizens should be able to use online access for clear statements on their bill. And what I would like to see is the due date, the amount of the bill, and what has been paid to date. And that is part of what is not on the bill. And I have, the reason the packet is so thick is I've taken a page for, just as I move through the website to show you the buttons that don't work and the capabilities on there that are not actually active.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Do you have the information, the packets up there?
Yes, I do.
The sergeant at arms will
All right,
take
I was
those
just
for me.
going to give them at the end in case
No, he
everybody
can hand them-
started
he can hand them
reading
out to
while,
us now.
while I was talking. But anyway, I wanted to provide you with that because I'm not going to go through it page by page, but you can do that. So when I use a tab to pay the real estate taxes, the only information that is posted there is actually, for me personally, my personal property taxes. So there is a mix-up there that really should be two different sites on and not coming to the same link on the website. Then I've been given a lot of conflicting information by the utilities and real estate offices. I've been given different figures for the same dates, payments that have been credited to the wrong quarter, and incorrect information in response to my questions. And just as one small example, when I went to check on my father-in-law's estate at the utilities, they told me that I would not have to pay for waste because no trash was being picked up. So I got an email to that effect. It's not in the packet, but I have it in my possession. No sooner had I gotten the email, but 2 hours later, a woman called me and said, no, that's not true. You still have to pay for trash, which is fine, but that's a demonstration of how people working in the same department do not always know what the various procedures are. And then I have been totally now locked out of my father-in-law's estate account, even though I'm the estate administrator. I sent the qualifying letter, I sent the death certificate, and so forth. And so I would like for you to look through this packet carefully, see my concerns and the concerns that I have for my father-in-law's estate, since I have to give an account of every penny, and to see the parts of the online services that are not operative. It's the 21st century, and those of us who want to do everything 100% online ought to be able to do so. Thank you very much.
Harris, could you remain there for a minute? Mr. Moody, sir, you have a question, or you want to make a comment? Okay. Anybody else have a comment to make? Well, one of the things I would ask our city manager, if we could get with Ms. Harris and the appropriate, perhaps Bud's person, and help her through this process. Certainly, we apologize for any inconveniences. Certainly, losing a loved one and dealing with those issues can be a challenge. So we thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Well, thank you. And I, my concern is not only for myself, but for all the citizens that are trying to do everything online, which I think we ought to be able to do now in 2022. Not everybody calls on the phone or has time to go down to 801 Crawford Street or anything else. And especially if you want to pay your real estate taxes monthly, when the figure doesn't change, and I know the assessment has changed, it should have gone up $32, and when it's withdrawn automatically, that should happen automatically.
Yes, ma'am. So
Thank
if
you.
you would just stand by, someone will come and gather your information, and we'll make sure that we get someone to sit with you and talk with you and help you resolve some of this. Okay? Ms. Bernadette? Once again, I want to thank everyone for coming to the meeting tonight. Seeing no other business for the order, this meeting is adjourned.